Nothing is more contentious in Israel's relations with the international community than its settlements, like this one, Efrat, in the West Bank, just a half-hour's drive from Jerusalem. My guest is its mayor, Oded Revivi, who rejects international condemnation of the movement and says he has a perfect right to be here. But with the new Trump administration in office, can he really expect unconditional support? Oded Revivi, welcome to Conflict Zone.
Thank you.
In the space of 3 days, your government authorized more than 3,000 new housing units and settlements in the West Bank, East Jerusalem, one of the largest increases in years. Have you no concern for your international reputation?
Well, I think it's something that had to be done quite a long time ago. The American administration, the old American administration, was definitely against it. And the Israeli government at the moment is trying to catch up with...
It had to be done. You had to, as the EU put it, seriously undermine the prospects for a viable two-state solution. That had to be done, did it?
I think the two-state solution that the Europeans are trying to talk about is something that every day that passes we're going further away from, not just because of what Israel is doing, but mainly what the Palestinians are doing.
Not just because, but partly because.
Listen, there are two partners at the game, and reality has stronger powers than making resolutions far away in Paris, where we don't know if the government there is going to succeed in next elections or not.
But the overwhelming majority of countries on this planet condemn your settlements and have done for decades. The EU says they're illegal and an obstacle to peace. Are you prepared for the isolation now that's going to follow this move?
The threat of isolating keeps on appearing time after time, and I even saw you using it with your interview with Naftali Bennett, and I think he gave you endless examples as to where Israel is not isolated, where Israel is actually prospering, why people are coming here to invest, why people are coming here to see how we are.
He did, but who do you think supports your settlements? Who out there in the rest of the world do you think supports your settlements?
I don't think it's a question of supporting the settlements or not. I don't think the settlements are the obstacle for peace. I think we had two prime ministers offering...
Well, they are, according to the UN Security Council, and there were 14 countries from different parts of the world, almost every continent in the world, who were out against them.
Yes, they were out against them, and then they passed opposing resolutions. People understand today that the only obstacle for peace are the Palestinians. It's not the settlements.
Which people understand that?
All around the world.
No, they don't. They don't.
They do.
They understand that your settlements are an obstacle to peace.
No, they hear you repeating
They are illegal and an obstacle to peace. It's there. Look at the website of any EU country. Pick it up. It's there. The settlements are illegal and an obstacle to peace.
Is there a question
Security
mark?
Council resolution 2334 declared the settlements a flagrant violation of international law, and you say these people are accepting that the Palestinians are to blame. They're not. Do you live in an alternative universe?
I don't live in an alternative universe. I'm trying to answer a question. The settlements are not the obstacle for peace. We had two prime ministers offering between 92 to 96% of the land, and it was refused. If you talk about these settlements and the amount of questions that you're asking about the settlements, you're forgetting to tell your viewers that all the settlements in Judea and Samaria, in the state of Israel, which is smaller than New Jersey, which is one of the smaller countries in the United States, or smaller than Wales for the Europeans. And all these settlements don't amount to 4% of the occupied territories, disputed territories, Judea and Samaria. You use whichever politically correct term you want. That's not the obstacle for peace. The obstacle for peace...
So what are the International Court of Justice, the UN, the Red Cross, and almost all the countries on this planet, are they all biased against you? Why do they see things differently from you? Do you think you're the only one who's the keeper of the sacred truth?
No, I'm not the only one, and I'm not sure that they really see the reality. Some of them have never come to see it. Some of them have never come to see the relationship with my neighbors.
Lots
have, and some of them are biased, and some of them are prejudiced, and some of them have changed their opinions after they have come here.
All the countries that back the UN resolution, are they all biased against you? Britain, France, Russia, China, Ukraine,
but
New Zealand, Malaysia, they're all biased against you?
They're not all biased against me.
So why did they vote against you then?
The Brits voted against, and a day later they condemned John Kerry's speech, which was against the settlements. So
they didn't condemn it. They took issue with the fact that he talked about the right-wing government. They did not condemn it. Let's stick with the facts, Mr. Revivi.
We're trying to stick with the facts, and each one of us has different sets of facts, and each one of us tries to spread different facts in order to kill a good story. At the end of the day...
Well, you've just come back from America. Maybe you brought some alternative facts like Donald Trump back with you.
No, there's only fake news there. There are no facts there. But the United Nations, they've passed resolutions, and I hear what they passed, but sometimes these resolutions are against the reality, against understanding the problems of the people living on the surface of the earth, and refusing to understand that my Palestinian neighbors are coming out day after day saying that they rather be part of the state of Israel rather than of the Palestinian Authority, which has proven since 1993 in endless examples that they are corrupt, that they are bankrupt, and they're the ones who are supporting terror. So you can say that we are the obstacle for peace, but the truth is that the Palestinians are the ones who are the obstacle for peace.
As I said, you've just returned from the United States. You were there at the inauguration of Donald Trump. He seems to have a very different view about settlements than his predecessor, Barack Obama. So now you think the gloves are off and it's build, build, build as many settlements as you can. Is this the policy now?
No, I don't think that's the policy. I think the policy is that there's going to be a meeting in the beginning of February between the new elected president and the Israeli prime minister. Understandings will be reached, agreements will be reached, and then we'll be able to know what's going to be the policy of this new administration.
Well, your deputy mayor of Jerusalem has already jumped the gun. He said the rules of the game have changed with Trump's arrival. We no longer have our hands tied as in the time of Barack Obama. Now we can finally build. That's your deputy mayor of Jerusalem. You don't share that view?
He's not my deputy mayor. I think with all due respect to the city of Jerusalem, things need to be decided between the heads of the two states. Prime Minister Netanyahu...
So he's jumping the gun, is he?
Different people, you know, that's the beauty of Israel.
Don't you have an opinion on this?
I have an opinion.
So what is it?
My opinion is that I'm waiting for my prime minister, the one that I elected, to go and fly to the United States, meet the elected president, understand from him how does he see the region, how would he like to see things, reach understanding, and with that go ahead. My personal agenda, it has nothing to do with how the Israeli government is going to act at the end of the day.
You trust Trump to protect the settlements, to change the policy on settlements? You trust him?
I don't know yet who is the new president of the United States.
You were invited by his close circle.
That is right. And it was my pleasure and my honor. I don't know what are
You don't know. It was an honor, but you don't know who he is.
It was an honor to attend in the ceremony. I don't know yet his standing on all the issues which are on stack. I do know that the people that he's nominating are people that have lived here, learned here, studied here, know the reality as it is, not from a satellite dish coming with ideas which have no connection to reality or whether they're practical or not. And in that respect, I'm more hopeful with the people that he's nominating.
So you trust him, do you?
I'm more hopeful.
But you won't say you trust him?
Well, I'll trust him after I know exactly what he's going to do and what stands in between his agenda and our agenda and where is he going to lead the world. I think in that respect, giving trust to somebody that I don't know anything about his policy, I didn't have to make that decision. I don't have a right to vote in the United States. That's a question you need to ask in America.
Did you also talk to American Jews who've been steadily losing support for the settle movement in Israel? Talked to them?
I've talked to many Jewish people in the United States. I know that
62%, according to J Street, the American Jewish organization.
The most reliable Jewish organization, yeah.
No, but are you saying they're lying? Are you saying they're lying?
I'm saying J Street have got a problem with the facts and the source of information.
Do you have a problem with Stephen Cohen, who's a research professor at Hebrew Union College, who says that on survey after survey, American Jews are opposed to Jewish settlement expansion? You have a problem with him as well? He's also director of the Berman Jewish Policy Archive at Stanford University.
Different people can have different opinions about what's happening here. The Jews in America are entitled for their opinions.
He reads the surveys. He reads the surveys.
I also hear what you're now reading out, okay? They are entitled for their opinions from over there. There's some Jewish American people who are extreme right-wing, who think that we should be much more violent and oppressive against the Palestinians. Giving suggestions from far away is something that is allowed, can be done, but decisions need to be made by the people who are living the reality. So I hear what they're saying. I understand what they're saying.
And they're as wrong as all the other countries who oppose your settlement expansion.
I'm not saying that they're wrong. I'm saying I chose to live here. I have an extremely peaceful relationship with my Palestinian neighbors. After they come and have coffee in my house, they were arrested by the Palestinian Authority under the accusation that they were sitting and negotiating peace with the Zionist enemy. They're my peaceful, friendly neighbors. It's the Palestinian Authority who tries to put them in jail and to keep their mouths shut.
Mr. Revivi, if your settlement expansion leads to violence, if there is an explosion of violence as a result of this, will it have been worth it for the settlement expansion?
I think the equation that you're trying to draw is not the right one. If we
How about answering the question?
I'm trying to. If we govern our policy by threat of violence and terror, then there is something wrong with us. If we are people that go by the law, if we think that what we do is justified legally, then we shouldn't be frightened of terrorists. It's not just here in Israel. The same applies to the American government and to the European government.
So you do the right thing. This is what you're saying. You're doing the right thing. The irony is that the more you build up your settlements, the more Palestinian homes you destroy, don't you?
No, we don't destroy any Palestinian homes.
That's according to B'Tselem, your own human rights organization.
No, they're not my own human rights organization.
They're Israeli. They're Israeli.
There are a lot of Israelis.
They're here. They're on the ground. You say people don't come and see what's happening on the ground. B'Tselem is on the ground here. You accept that?
B'Tselem is here. B'Tselem is funded by American organizations. They have a political agenda, and they have been proven...
So they're lying, are they?
They have been proven time after time to be inaccurate. At the end of the day, 4% of Judea and Samaria is built with Jewish homes. Another 6% is built with Palestinian homes. The whole of Judea and Samaria, only 10% is actually built area.
Mr. Revivi,
no houses are being destroyed besides Jewish homes which are built by mistake on Palestinian land.
Mr. Revivi, when the Israeli human rights group, B'Tselem, reported last August that the spate of demolitions carried out by your civil administration was in full swing, it said in the space of just a week and a half, last August, you demolished 20 homes and 13 other structures in Palestinian communities, including in the West Bank, leaving 53 people, including 25 minors, homeless. I'm wondering what kind of government destroys homes where children are living and throws them out onto the street. What kind of government are you?
That sounds heartbreaking. It sounds devastating. But
what?
You have to understand.
What's the but?
So let me complete my answer. You have to ask yourself, were these houses built on land which is owned by these private individuals? Whether these houses were built with building permits, whether these houses were built connected to infrastructure, or it's acts of violence done using children as prisoners in these acts of illegal building. And just like
families using children as prisoners, children tend to live with their families, Mr. Revivi. Maybe they do in your settlement as well. And you call that being held prisoner?
Tim, I've seen your shows. You're an intelligent person. Don't undermine the other side. They've used hospitals to launch missiles from.
We're not talking about that. We're talking about you bulldozing Palestinian homes where children are living and throwing children onto the street. And I'm asking, don't you ever have a twinge of guilt about that sort of situation? Doesn't it ever give you pause for thought?
I didn't realize you were so dramatic. But I will get back to my answer.
The situation is dramatic.
The situation is dramatic. The situation is dramatic because innocent kids are being taken as victims and as gunfire to have this battle. These houses should have never been built where they were built. And just like the Israeli government demolishes houses within the smaller Israel where they're being built without building permits, with kids living in them, because that's not justifying and not obtaining to the law. So the same applies to these houses that you're trying to make Israel as such a monster demolishing these houses. The people who are the monsters in this equation are the people who are taking kids, who are taking sick people as victims for their launching missiles, for them putting them in houses which shouldn't have been built.
Mr. Revivi, let's stay with the facts, because just 2 months ago, Israel's High Court of Justice had to issue a blunt reminder to your government in respect of the Amona settlement, reminding it that the obligation to honor court rulings is not a matter of choice. It is essential to government by law to which everyone is subject as part of the values of Israel. In other words, when a court says remove a settlement, remove it. That High Court should even have to remind the government that that is its position. Shows how little your government cares about its own legal system.
No, no, no.
Of course it does. There are countless examples where your government and the settler movement ignores court rulings.
So that's why I'm proud to be a resident of this state. And I'm proud of my Supreme Court, and I'm proud of my government. And there is a balance between...
You're proud of a government that ignores Supreme Court rulings?
It doesn't ignore.
In 2010, we had another example. In 2010, an Israeli court ordered the demolition of 2 buildings in the settlement of Beit El, which had been built on private land.
And what
5
happened?
year later,
What
the
happened?
2 buildings were still there.
And what happened
5 years
what
later.
What happened a day later?
What happened a day later?
The 2 houses were demolished.
Yeah, why did they prevaricate for 5 years? They were only demolished when the court told them, enough, get rid of these governments.
How long have we got? You want to, in this show, go through a legal file, a legal proceeding that lasted for 5 years, and you want to know why it went for 5 years? It went for 5 years because there were different arguments, there were different appeals, there were different attempts to change the decision.
Because every time the court gives you a decision you don't like, you fight it. And,
That's
and,
legit.
you tell the Palestinians, just knuckle down, have your buildings, buildings bulldozed.
Tim, you're being not accurate with the facts. As long as it is...
I've given you the facts.
And I will answer with a fact. As long as you play according to the legal rules and within the court system, and you have an option to file another petition, and you have an option to file another appeal, and when the government realized that there were no more legal ways to go and make these 2 houses stay in their place, the government demolished them, just like they demolished Palestinian houses. And if a Palestinian house wants to stay on the ground and thinks he has legal ground, he can go through a legal process and fight it until the courts say you have reached the top level of appeal. I've got examples in
Mr. Revivi, there have been decades of discrimination against Palestinians.
That's also a fact.
That's also a fact, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm waiting for you to tell me where that fact is, that Israel is a discriminating country.
You don't know that?
I don't know that.
You don't know that in 2003, the official report on the causes of the Second Intifada, led by Judge Theodore Orr, said that government handling of the Arab sector has been primarily neglectful and discriminatory. You didn't know they said that. The state did not do enough or try hard enough to create equality for its Arab citizens or to uproot discriminatory or unjust phenomena.
You did your homework, and you can find a quote about every single argument they said.
This was an official government inquiry into the Second Intifada.
But the fact that that's what's written doesn't turn it into a fact, okay? The current government has dedicated endless amount of money in order to fix errors which happened in the past. I'm not trying to clear all the errors that made in the past. But you have to understand again that there's another side to the equation. Take example, you want to Jerusalem. The mayor of Jerusalem, when he gets elected and he sees how neglected were the Arab neighborhoods of Jerusalem, his number one decision is that the first light railway track will lead to Bet Hanina and Shuafat, Arab neighborhoods. And where will they end? In Hadassah and Karim Hospital. So they will have direct access to the hospital. What happens in this first round of violence in the last Intifada? The Palestinians, the people who live in Bet Hanina and in Shuafat, go and burn down the light railway and its station. So go and do a review how neglected that light railway is.
And what happened when you had fires? The Palestinians came and helped you put them out.
Precisely. So we've got good examples which I want to promote, and which I say that that's the solution for this conflict. That's the ones that we need to empower. That's where we need to put the funds on people like that who know that when there's a fire, let's go and turn it off together. And yet, as opposed to those who think that if they start the flames, they will bring the peace.
And you want to continue with this belligerent occupation of yours endlessly. I'm using the words that your own High Court used, because as they said in 2004, the general point of departure of all parties here, which is also our point of departure, is that Israel holds the area in belligerent occupation. That's your court. That's your court.
It is my court.
I'm only quoting your court back at you.
Excellent. I'm happy that you're quoting my court. And I'm proud that this is my court, because this court can have that opinion and on the other hand say that I'm entitled to live in Efrat because of the international law, the way we interpret it. Now,
well, your Supreme Court has never ruled on that. Your Supreme Court has never ruled on whether the settlement movement is legal. That's a fact.
They have ruled endless rulings about houses that are entitled
individual
to
houses,
individual houses,
but not on the legality of the settlement.
So maybe file that petition and see what they rule, okay? Maybe do a study case.
They've already said it's non-justiciable. It does not fall within the purview of their court.
But on the other hand, they have ruled that houses can stay, towns can be established, cities can be built.
In your belligerent occupation.
In our belligerent occupation. If you want me to repeat your questions and your accusations, it won't make it any stronger. We all know...
It's a pretty strong accusation by itself.
It could be.
It is.
It could be. At the end of the day, the situation, the legal situation in Judea and Samaria is a unique one, which there is absolutely no resemblance anywhere else in the world. For the basic fact that the countries which held this area of land prior to 1967 have signed in writing a waiver that they have no more claims over this land. And therefore, the only future plan, declaration, understanding as to the title of this land will be reached according to international understanding and agreement. And
you obviously didn't read the Camp David Accords in 1978,
I read the Camp David Accords.
What were they based on? They were based on Resolution 242, which provides explicitly for the withdrawal of Israeli forces from land they had taken in the recent conflict. And this was in 1968, so the recent conflict referred to 67 when you occupied these lands. And Israel signed up to that and ratified that. The Knesset ratified it, along with the Egyptian Parliament. You accepted it, and you have violated it ever since.
I think your interpretation of these two sections of the United Nations resolution is misleading, because that's not the way we interpret it.
A withdrawal of forces means what? That you stay there for the next 50 years in occupation? Did it mean that?
I don't think it meant that. I think at the end of the day, it said that what has to be done needs to be done with international understanding and acceptance. And as long as there is no international understanding and acceptance, and because Israel today holds already expert legal opinions that say that we have the rights to live and build in Judea and Samaria, and because the Palestinians have basically refused every single compromise up until today, we're in a situation where reality is much stronger than policy, and that's where we are today.
And much stronger than agreements you've already signed. But, Mr. Revivi, so what do we look forward to? One state. The two-state solution, as you said, is going nowhere. So we have one state in which Jewish Israelis have full political rights here, and where millions of Palestinians don't. Is that what's coming here?
No, I don't think that's what's coming. I think that's a very old-school thought, which is very fixed on the question whether we're for one state or for a two-state solution. I think it is time that we sit in a room and try and find a third option, an option that the Palestinians will feel satisfied with, an option that will give the Israeli government and the Israeli people the safety and the peace that we're looking for.
They're looking for a state. You know what they'd be satisfied with. They've said it. They want a sovereign state, not a state minus, like Prime Minister Netanyahu has offered them, nor as your education minister, Mr. Bennett, wants to do, which is to take away the last vestiges of hope, which he said specifically, take away the last vestiges of hope that any Palestinian will ever get a sovereign state. You in that camp too?
No.
You're not?
I think we are trying different experiments with the Palestinians. Unfortunately, every single experiment has failed up till now.
How about experimenting, giving them some rights?
Gaza was an experiment. They have full rights
in
Gaza.
Bank. In the West Bank.
Let's speak about what we've tried up until now. In the West Bank, okay, you want to talk about the West Bank? Let's talk about the West Bank.
You tell them you tell us you have 1,000 working here.
Can I complete an answer?
1,000 Palestinians.
Can I complete an answer?
I thought you asked me a question.
I didn't see any question mark, but let me try and answer.
Please, we're running out of time.
Okay. In Judea and Samaria, 1993, 1994, the Oslo Accord, there was an attempt to establish a Palestinian state. The truth of the matter is, the Palestinian Authority has all the elements of an independent state besides two. They don't have a declaration of independence, and they don't have an army. They have their own elective system. They have their own elected people. They have their own judicial system. They have their own police. They have their own jails. They have their own tax system.
And they're under an occupier, and it's coming up to 50 years of occupation.
We
and
are not disturbing.
Elect, and they cannot. No, you're not disturbing them.
Why can't they elect?
You can go into their towns
can't they elect?
and homes anytime you want.
Why can't they elect?
Anytime they want.
Why can't they elect? Because they have decided to postpone elections time after time after time. Israel allowed for open, free elections to happen in Gaza, and look what we ended up with.
All right.
Hamas.
Mr. Revivi, we're running out of time. It's been a pleasure to have you on Conflict Zone.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Thank you. Come again.